Hello and welcome. It's the 12th day of April 2023, and yes, I'm saying a big thank you to you for joining me on another interesting episode of the newspaper review here on TAP TV. My name is Cyril Aloysius, and joining me in today's episode of news review is the ever beautiful Natasha Brown. Natasha Brown, you're welcome to join me.
Cyril.
Yes, thank you so much for joining me. And today we'll be looking at three papers as usual. The first paper here on our list is the Daily Times. The Daily Times. Some interesting headlines here. The Daily Times says, this one says, protest rock National Assembly over sale of Nigeria's stolen crude in China. Protests rock National Assembly over sale of Nigeria's stolen crude in China. Okay. Another interesting one here says, Shodi privatization responsible for takeover of some discourse, according to NUEE. Shodi privatization responsible for takeover of some discourse. That's according to NUEE. Another headline here in the Daily Times, someone says, INEC asked court to strike out Atiku's petition. INEC asked court to strike out Atiku's petition. Okay, moving on now to further headlines in the Daily Times. This one says, tributes as ex-governor of Anambra Mbadinuju dies at 78. Tributes as ex-governor of Anambra Mbadinuju dies at 78. That story is on page 20 of the Daily Times. And this one here says, furore over Obi Oyedepo audio as federal government ask for more clarification. Furore over Obi Oyedepo audio as federal government ask for more clarification. And lastly, in the Daily Times for today, this one says federal government inaugurates NSTI television studio in Abuja. Federal government inaugurates NSTI television studio in Abuja. Okay, that's the much we can take in the Daily Times for today. Natasha Brown, please, I'd like to get your reaction to the boldest headline here in the Daily Times. It says, protest rock National Assembly over sale of Nigeria's stolen crude in China. Please react to this.
I think this happened yesterday, Tuesday. I mean, so it's been said that 48 million barrels of our crude product was sold in China without appropriate remittance, of the fund gotten from the sales. And basically we have this whistleblower team go to the National Assembly protesting against it. In fact, there's even talks of lack of transparency with the committee set up to vet the whole process, and they're also seeking for justice. I think that I don't know if we can ever really totally eradicate crude oil theft. Maybe yes, with some more stringent measures we can, but we have been battling this for the longest of times. I mean, was it last year that I think it was in Warri that it was uncovered, the big pipeline, that was siphoning oil. So we have a lot of these things happening. NNPC is complicit, so many others are complicit, and throughout the whole dramas we have been having, we have not seen one head roll. We have not seen one person called to book. For example, case in point, what happened in Warri, the pipe that was discovered and all of that. Did you hear of any names?
No.
That were called out, put on a red marker? No. Nobody was jailed. Nothing happened.
So are you saying
it was just a sensational news.
Okay.
So now that this whistleblower team, they've gone out there to the National Assembly and they've protested. Yes, you have protested, but I am tired of so much drama. I want action. I want people to actually be held responsible for all these things going on. So it's a very disheartening thing, and allegedly this happened since 2015 or thereabouts. So it's very disheartening that there are some particular people somewhere that are just profiting off of the nation's wealth, and not like they're doing it with impunity, knowing fully well that their heads will not roll, knowing fully well that they will not be sanctioned for anything. Nobody's going to go to jail, because you know the right people to call, and the cabal that is involved in all of this. I mean, 48 million barrels, that's on a huge scale. But I do applaud the fact that we're already coming out big time, protesting, causing unrest and all of that. Sometimes it's needed to shake things up, to make these people understand that we, the citizenry, we know what's going on, and we are also demanding for justice. But beyond this, I really would want to see justice done.
Okay.
You know, and now that they're already saying that they do not have faith in the committee setup, you know, due to lack of transparency and all of that. So I wish that the committee setup could be totally overhauled, so they could have people of integrity, so to speak, you know, be part of the committee and give out the right metrics for justice. But at the end of the day, I mean, a lot of the things are swept under the carpet here in Nigeria. So I don't know. I don't know where I see this going. What the way forward is, but I really do hope that a time comes, and I hope, especially with this new government coming in, let heads roll. Okay. You know, let people be sent to jail. Let this whole impunity stop. Like, I mean, I'm sure it's not rocket science. It's not at all.
Okay.
I mean, and even China being complicit, are you sure it's not because they've loaned us a lot of money?
I was about getting there. I was about getting there as well, because you know, Nigeria is actually indebted to China now.
Billions.
Yes. So
billions.
Who knows? Maybe that could be the reason. But you made mention of the fact that this particular siphoning of oil has been there for quite a number of years.
We hear it all the time.
You know, Nigerians have protested over the years. A lot of legal actions have been taken to ensure
back and forth
to ensure that these people that carry out these atrocities are brought to book, but all to no avail. So do you by any chance think or believe that Nigeria has gotten to that point where we have to say that just maybe this peaceful protest of a thing isn't working? Because it's almost like the politicians now know that, yes, even if we do our worst,
it's all talk and no bite. It's all talk and no bite, yeah.
Yes, and then all the highest they could do is to go on protest, and after that protest for
that's
like,
about
just
it.
for like
It
a week or so, it dies out. So do you by any means feel like, okay, just maybe the protest is not working out, and just maybe Nigerians should apply some more pressure?
Well, I would not on air advocate for anything like a violent protest.
Okay.
I mean, because peaceful protest is still the way to go, dialogue. But at the end of the day, a lot of the times our politicians don't listen. They don't listen because they understand the way most Nigerians are, even social media. So a time comes, there's all this clamor, we need justice, but then we don't follow it through to the very end. For example, case in point, the NSAS movement.
Okay.
How many of us really followed the process through to the end to actually see how it ended when they set up those committees in every state? How many of us actually went to the plenary sessions in our states? What we had most, or what we watched most, was from that happened in Lagos. But how many of us actually followed it through to the tail end? You know, so I know that protesting doesn't have much water, doesn't hold a lot of water with our political class. But I also do know that when that Lekki toll gate was shut down, it touched a lot of people because the economy was touched, right? Even when the NLC they gave a 7-day ultimatum to the CBN to say that if you do not put some checks to this whole cash crunch, then we're going to shut down the whole economy. There's not going to be any movement. No workers are going to go anywhere. And then they got to understand that our economy will be touched further if NLC actually gets to embark on strike, right? So those outright measures, when you come out, you know, in force like that, to say that these are the measures we're going to take, if you don't listen to us, then most times they tend to listen, right? But when we just go about and just clamor and say, we're looking for justice, most times it doesn't really turn out the way that we plan. So for me, I know that the way forward is protest fused with actionable plans to say that if what we demand for in the next 1 week or 3 days or whatever is not done, this will be what will follow up. And then when you have major bodies like NLC or whatever come through most times we get to hear from our government, but I just really hope that this is not the way that we get, like, it doesn't continue to be the order of the day in our country.
Okay.
You know, where people just steal and then just get fat on taxpayers' money and the nation's wealth, and it's horrible. It's horrible.
Yes. And speaking of the NSAS thing, just recently there is a video going viral right now about the Nigerian police again launching assault upon assault on
police brutality again.
Yes. So there's a video on the internet right now about a particular policeman who was videoed, carrying out an assault on a citizen, and from what we heard, the guy was asking, what did I do? Did I steal anything? He didn't. He was busy slapping him and telling him to go to his car and stuff like that. From my findings, those policemen have been, arrested, and they are now in Abuja now for trials.
Right.
So, well, we can say these are steps in the right direction, so that a lot of police officers and sergeants would sit up
and take the cue, right?
But also, we hope that such actions, that we are seeing currently, are not a flash in the pan, because we understand that these things over the time, if we don't monitor it, like you said, to the very end, they might just get swept under the carpet. They may just act as though they are trying to do something, and then before you know it, the whole matter is swept under the carpet. So we hope it is not swept under the carpet.
It's just like when they wanted to change SARS to SWAT. Same people, just different names.
That's the problem. That's the problem. And just before I draw the curtain on this particular, I would like to ask you a question again. Do you think that the reason why our politicians behave this way, why they don't listen most of the time, is as a result of the fact that most of their investment, most of their families are not here in the country, and they don't suffer exactly what we're suffering as citizens?
Not quite.
Okay.
Not quite.
You don't believe so?
I know that they probably do have foreign investments elsewhere, but I know that they also do have investments back home.
Can you name a particular politician in the country
no.
whose children are schooling in the country right now?
Well, I can't, because I'm not sure that. Hold on, because I'm not sure I have access to all of that information. But I'm saying that outside of maybe their children not schooling here, most of their wives are also in Nigeria. Some of their investments are here in terms of real estate, businesses, whatnot that they've put their monies into. So they have investments here. So definitely, sometimes when the economy is hit really bad, the investments also suffer, but not as much as when the average Nigerian's business suffers. You kind of almost quantify. But definitely, we know that most of the time, they don't tend to even want to do much about the issues that the common Nigerian faces, because they know that even though they might face the same issue, it won't be on the same level or measure that this other person is facing. So at the end of the day, it's just selfish. Okay. It's selfish.
All right, it's selfish. Okay, let's move straight now to this day newspaper, where we have some more interesting headlines. The boldest headline in this day says, INEC, no act of infraction substantial enough to nullify 2023 presidential poll. Wow, that's a very shocking and surprising headline there on this day newspaper. I go again. It says, no act of infraction substantial enough to nullify 2023 presidential poll. That's INEC saying on this day newspaper. Another headline in this day here says, World Medical Association attacks lawmakers over bill restricting doctors to Nigeria. World Medical Association attacks lawmakers over bill restricting doctors to Nigeria. That's an interesting headline, and in page 40 of this day newspaper. And another one here says on page 10, Chimamanda Buhari, INEC blew last chance to emerge Nigeria's heroes. That's Chimamanda saying. She says Buhari, INEC blew last chance to emerge Nigeria's heroes. Insists her critics deflecting focus on pertinent issues, deploying ethnicity. Says she respects Soyinka but disagrees with him on 2023 polls. Okay, that is for the headline on page 10. And on page 41 here we have Buhari, Atiku, Ahneze mourn as ex-Anambra governor Mbadi Nuju dies at 78. All right, we saw this before in the previous paper. And lastly, here in this day, we have maintain tight monetary policy to check inflation. IMF tells CBN, it says maintain tight monetary policy to check inflation. IMF tells CBN. That story is on page 10 of this day newspaper. Natasha Brown, I'd like to get your thoughts, again, your reactions to another headline. This one, I think it's one of the most shocking headlines in the papers today. It says INEC, no act of infraction substantial enough to nullify 2023 presidential poll. Do you agree with INEC on this one?
Why will I agree? Why will I agree? Nullifying, for me, I look at it from two angles. Nullifying the 2023 elections, definitely, there are more cons than pros, because it's almost going to deteriorate into an ethnic type of war or a religious type of war. Because
it's already looking like it.
But so it's going to deteriorate further. So I'm likely not on the stance of it being nullified. But when the INEC comes out to say that it's whatever has happened is not weighty enough to nullify it, I beg to differ. There was violence, there was thuggery, there was stealing of ballot boxes, there was vote buying massively, video evidence, Beaver's machines not working. I particularly was one of those people that was disenfranchised. I went on that presidential election day to vote. My card did not come up.
Wow.
They tried my first name, my surname, my middle name, even my VIN number. It did not come up. Meanwhile, INEC had said to us that those of us with a functional voter's card, we don't necessarily have to go and turn it in to get a new one. It's still valid. So when I got there, only for the officials to have said to me, that they didn't properly upload all database from having the old voter's card into the Beaver's machine. That's why a number of us, our details are not coming up. So, and it was not just me. After me, I think like 3 other people or so. Their names didn't come up. Imagine the many number of such people whose card details didn't come out, meaning we didn't get to vote our ideal candidate, right? And not just me. So we have all of these things going on, and you say that it's not enough. We have party agents come out to say, but what we were there when these votes were called out. We have a paper. We have it on recording.
Labour Party leading.
We have it on recording, and then we come to the collation center. All of a sudden, we are hearing a totally different result. So
you're saying the
INEC was too much. And then even international observers said the same thing. Other observers from other African countries that came through to observe our elections said the same thing. So what are we talking about? It means that you are simply downplaying all that happened, saying that it is not substantial enough to nullify the election. So if those things that we have mentioned are not substantial enough, then is it when there is live shooting at people, that's when it will now be substantial enough to say, okay, now we have to nullify this. I mean, come on. We saw, especially in places like Lagos, where it was outright, you look like an Igbo person, no, you cannot vote. It was glaring like that. It was glaring like that. Igbo. It was crazy, bigotry and all that. So we saw all of that happen. We saw the lady, the case in point, a bottle was thrown at her face. So we have all those things come up, and you say those are not weighty enough. Come on now, come on.
The presence of a policeman, and then someone is saying, if you know you don't want to vote for a certain party, go home.
It's horrible what INEC has said, and just like
what do you think Yaku is trying to achieve with this statement? What do you he's driving out with this statement?
I think he's trying to.
Is he in any way trying to provoke Nigerians with this statement?
No, I think he's trying to save face. I think he's just trying to, first of all,
downplay the fact that
okay. First of all, you know that everybody has been calling for him to be jailed.
Okay.
Right there, people have been calling for him to be jailed. That he did not do the proper job. we're talking about beavers machines. The next thing you come up with a word to say no, and what we expected of the beavers machines, and that was not what you entirely said, that was the way it was going to work. When we talked about, but you said all results were going to be, uploaded into the IRF portal, you end up coming up to say no, it was not necessary. It's not. It wasn't like a necessary thing.
So many instances of irregularities.
So I look at him and I'm like, this is a man that is not even owning up to the mess he has created. This is a man that...
An election that you spent over 300 billion naira.
You had 4 years to plan.
4 years.
And it went this abysmally. Like, it's not... Now, he can also come out to say that, okay, the Labour Party, they came up third. PDP came up second. Why is the Labour Party making so much noise, trying to do the whole court proceedings and all that? But at the end of the day, we see what happened in a lot of the units and in a lot of the words. But I don't know what this statement is that he's trying to make. But I know that he's trying to say face one. I know that he's also trying to save the face of the INEC. But he can't do that. Like, right now, his reputation is dented. INEC reputation is dented. If there's going to be another election in the next 4 years, or when there's another election in the next 4 years, I don't know what will even be the state of the minds of Nigerians come that time, come that period. I mean, a lot of us are still looking forward to what will happen before the handover day. A lot of us are still looking at, okay, will the court upturn things? What will happen? Because we're still looking at it. But when he comes out to make such statements, it almost looks like Peter Obi that has his case in court is basically just talking balderdash. So I don't know what he's trying to do with that, but definitely it's a blatant lie. A lot of things happened.
From the way things are looking right now, Natasha, do you see anything changing before the 29th of May? Do you see...
Unfortunately, no.
Okay.
If anything happened like an upturning of the result, I will be shocked out of my mind. I swear. I will be shocked out of my mind.
Looking at the body language of INEC at this moment.
The federal government. And the way they're trying to now build a smear campaign around Peter Obi and Dati to make it look like, okay, there's a treasonable offense somewhere.
Yeah. Trying to distract people from the actual problem right now.
Right. And trying to make it look like, oh, Dati, you have said something, insurrection, this and that. Trying to move. So it will be a shocker for me if something changes. Okay,
we'll go on a quick break right now, and when we return, the discussion continues. Please stay tuned. Okay, you are welcome back. Still on the newspaper review here. We shall be looking at our next and last paper for the day. And this time it is the Nigerian News Direct. And headlines here in page 3. The boldest headline in the Nigerian News Direct says, Tribunal, Tinubu's forfeiture of $460,000 US to the US government. No ground for disqualification according to APC. Tinubu's forfeiture of $460,000 to US government. No ground for disqualification. That's the APC saying on page 3 of the Nigerian News Direct. And on page 2 of the Nigerian News Direct, we have Ramadan. Senator Oluremi Tinubu calls for love, peaceful coexistence. Senator Oluremi Tinubu calls for love and peaceful coexistence. That's the reason on page 2 of the Nigerian News Direct. And still on page 2, we have alleged $2.4 billion oil theft. Ministers, heads of MDAs snub reps salmon. Okay, that's the reason on page 2 as well of the Nigerian News Direct. And lastly, here in the Nigerian News Direct, we have on page 22, this one says 500 level OAU student beaten to death by colleagues over phone theft. Okay, that's a sad news there on page 22. I go again, 500 level OAU students beaten to death by colleagues over phone theft. Wow. Okay, Natasha, please let me get your reaction to this very attractive headline, disturbing headline by the APC, saying Tinubu's forfeiture of $460,000 to US government is no ground for disqualification. What do you make of this headline?
Before I go into that headline, I'd like to hope that the phone that 500 level OAU students stole is probably like an iPhone 14 Pro Max, because I wouldn't understand why you would beat somebody to death for just stealing a phone. No, I know theft is a wrong thing. It's not something we should clap.
Natasha, even if he stole
someone to death,
even if he stole a car,
what the?
Come on.
Like, where are we going to as a country?
This is life.
When did students start beating people to I don't know.
It's a sad one. Do you think all that played out as a result of the frustration this country has been for the past few months? Because people are angry.
Right.
And if you're not careful as a citizen, you just might get on the wrong side of things, where you have people pouring their frustration on you. Because to be very honest, a lot of Nigerians have been frustrated this past few months. You know, a lot has happened, and I will not blame a lot of persons for looking and feeling so frustrated. But given that, I still don't think that's enough reason to take the life of another, since you cannot give life. The highest you can do, at least, even if you want to beat him up, but not to a point of death, hand him over to the securities. Come on.
It's a horrible one.
We should do better. We should do better as citizens.
Absolutely.
Moving now to the main topic, Natasha.
Yeah, so that not being a basis for disqualification. Well, you've been indicted, or you've been it's being alleged that you were involved in drug trafficking, back in the US, and because you were found guilty, you had to forfeit some monies, based off of what your allegation was, and then it's actually on paper and in records, that you forfeited 460,000, US dollars and all that. But is that enough grounds for Tinubu to be disqualified? I think no.
Really?
I think no. I mean, how? So what's my rationale behind that? How you do an offense, you commit an offense, and there is a penalty for that offense that you committed, and you pay the penalty for that offense. As long as you don't go back to doing that offense, you have been acquitted.
But it doesn't take away the fact that
offense happened.
Yes, it doesn't also erase the fact that you are capable of such a thing, and it actually questions your character, your character as someone who actually wants to be the president of a nation.
Right. True. I look at it from that angle, but also on the flip side, let's look at this, whereby a lot of people have skeletons in their closets.
Yes.
I am not saying, I'm not putting an endorsement of any of that, but a lot of us have skeletons in our closets.
Okay.
And a lot of us have bad sides or bad attitudes one way or the other. But I'm saying, my premise is, if someone even with the law, if someone committed an offense, you've paid the penalty, and you come out of it and you don't go back to the offense, it's a whole different ballgame. But now I know that there's a part in the Constitution that talks about someone who has had forlicking in drug trafficking or the drug trade and all that, you not being liable to being president. I think there's something like that in the Constitution. I was talking about this with a friend of mine. So, but based off of that, if there's such a thing like that in the Constitution, then his ascendancy into the presidential seat is questionable.
Exactly.
It's questionable. That means that you're not looking at the Constitution. You guys put down.
Yes, APC saying that it is not enough reason for his disqualification.
So it's a two-sided thing for me. First of all, your party will always say things to try to make you look good. I mean, it's their job.
Don't you think
Natasha,
that if Tinubu actually emerges or goes ahead to become the president of this country after such allegations against him, don't you think that the democracy of this country is
in trouble?
It's in trouble. It's in trouble.
Like that is said, right? Well, I look at it from two angles.
Democracy has been in trouble for quite some time, but don't you think it will further put us in deep soup if he goes on to be the president?
If the Constitution outrightly said that someone that has a drug trafficking related offense in his past cannot rule the country, then therein lies the issue.
Okay.
Therein lies the issue. It means that you are trying to overrule the Constitution when you are not even yet in office officially, right? But if there are clauses around that constitutional law or that line, which I don't yet understand, what if there are clauses around that, then it might not be a necessary basis for him to be disqualified. But in the larger crop of things, we are looking at the impunity with which people will come out and say, yes, I used to do fraud here. Does that mean that I cannot come into office? You know, so it sets a precedence and all of that. So I'm looking at it from all angles, and to a large extent, I rather would have canvassed that he be disqualified. But like I said, if there are clauses around that constitutional law, then so be it.
Come on, Natasha, come on. Okay, just imagine someone like Hush Puppy right now. He has served, let's assume he serves his time in prison, and then he finally comes out. And then tomorrow he says, I want to contest for presidency. And then would you now tell us that because he had served his time in prison, so he has every right whatsoever to assume the office?
But if we go with that rhetoric, that means that nobody should be given any second chance at a better life. That means that nobody can be retrusted when you have messed up.
This is the mantle to lead a country we're talking about here.
Yes.
To lead a country.
Yes, it is the mantle to lead a country. But I'm saying this. What I'm saying is, yes, you had a questionable character. You had a questionable.
You are seeing, glaring evidences that this person is not in terms of criteria.
So based on that rhetoric, so where is the room for change? Where is the room for progressive change? If someone progressively says that I used to be this 20 years ago, I used to be this 10 years ago, but this is not my school of thought anymore, and you come into office, or one of your canvassing points is, yes, I used to be this, so one of my manifestos is that I'm going to go ham on cyber criminals, I'm going to go ham on fraudsters, because I understand the gimmicks around it.
So if I get you correctly, you are saying if Buhari, let's assume Buhari has an opportunity to come back again for another term. Based on what we have seen over the past few years, if Buhari should come back and say, I've changed, I'm no longer the man I used to be, you would still encourage Nigerians to vote Buhari into power?
No. Now, that's not the point. That's not the point. Because first of all, this is something that just happened like really recently.
Yes.
We are still in it.
Okay.
So he had 8 years. And before this 8 years, he also had, like, I think 4 years back in the military era. He also had 4 years of rulership, which was also an abysmal performance. So it's not just the first time. So we had a president already. Then he comes back and he says, oh, I have a better manifesto. And then you still mess up again. Come on. What was the reason we let him come into office, regardless of the fact that he had a bad precedence during the whole military regime? People wanted change. People wanted progressive change. And this man touted himself as someone who could do the needful. So therefore, based off of that, we brought him in. But then he has shown himself to not be capable. So what is my premise? My premise is this. There is always room for progressive change. Due to the time constraint or the time that has elapsed between your bad judgment and your reformed person now, we can be able to make some progressive deductions or conclusions about you. But what I'm saying is it enough for him to be disqualified, Tinubu, as a president? Like I would say, I'm premising it on the Constitution. If the Constitution outrightly said that if you had such checks in your past, you cannot be there, then he should not be there. But if there are clauses around it that regardless of what he did, if there was a penalty and he paid it in full and all of that, and he's been exonerated and acquitted, then he can come in, then it's not a basis for him to be disqualified. But my only worry about such a thing is the precedence it sets, where if he comes into office and peradventure does not deliver as he touted himself to be able to deliver based on his manifesto, then therein lies the bigger issue.
So wouldn't we be foolish as at then, because we saw the signs? It's a different thing when you didn't see the signs. But we saw the signs and we let him go ahead to become the president, and then things didn't turn out the way we expected, and then you were like, we saw the signs. So wouldn't we be foolish then? Natasha,
No,
come on.
honestly, it's a lot to think about. But at the end of the day, I'll let the court do their work. The court is supposed to be the one that gets through all these legal proceedings and does what is right by the people.
At this point
So
in time, do you
I'll
think
let the court do it.
can be trusted?
To a large extent,
Really?
but we are hoping. What can we do? We're hoping that they do right, by the people and with all the evidences that have been put in place. But beyond all of that, I'm just hoping for a saner Nigeria. I'm hoping for a Nigeria that can come back as one, because right now we're so grossly divided, and we're not necessarily looking out for that president that will come to even further divide us. So there are a lot of angles to look at it, but based on what we have said, I hope that the court does the needful for the sake of Nigerians.
Okay. We hope that the court does the needful for the sake of Nigerians. Words of Natasha Brown. Thank you so much for your time with me on the program today. I really do appreciate it. And I want to say thank you to you, my wonderful viewers who have been watching and faithful to your screen up until this time. But this is the end of the newspaper review for today. Thank you so much for staying faithful. My name is Cyril Aloysius, and please, if you are yet to subscribe to this channel, please do so. And after subscribing, make sure you turn on your notification bell so you get notified when we come online and drop our new videos. You can do well to follow us and check us out on different social media platforms. On YouTube, we're TAP TV on YouTube. On Instagram, we're TAP TV_NG. On Facebook and Twitter, we're TAP TV. Thank you so much once again. Until we come your way again next time to enjoy the rest of your days. Bye for now.
Bye.